Venezuelan government started delivering low-cost heating oil to Americans today. The president of that country remains a vocal critic of the United States. There's a lot to suggest this cheap oil is just a political ploy, but should people who really need cheaper oil just take the money and run? Just take this cheap oil. Let's go back to our Fox panel, see what they think. Mike Norman.
I say, as a policy, we should tell this guy to take his oil and shove it. Look, you remember when after 9/11 when Rudy Giuliani, we got the $10 million check from that Saudi sheikh, but it came with conditions he criticized, and Giuliani said, here, take your money back. Look, we are an incredibly wealthy country. If we can't help out our own people, I mean, it's just kind of a sad statement. We have a strategic petroleum reserve. What's it going to cost us out of that reserve to help people who need some heating oil during the winter season? Come on, and now we're extending a hand to Chavez. Send back, just even if it's going to come back to us in some other cargo bound from somewhere else, send the oil back. Say no, just as a statement.
What do you think?
Well, it's clearly a PR ploy, but, you know, my concern is with the American government has no foreign policy agenda dealing with Chavez. He can come into this country and call our president evil, and you can love or hate George Bush, but no foreign leader should be allowed to come to New York and get away with calling him evil. But I say if he's willing to sell cheap oil, and the fact is that we have no foreign policy that relates to Chavez, why should these low-income people be the ones to suffer because, you know, and not buy that cheap oil? Let them have the cheap oil.
Jim Pethakakis, we had a small business company owner last week. It has been in the business for many, many decades, and his customers can't afford the price of heating oil as we head into the winter season. There is an ice storm slamming the Midwest. It's coming this way to the East Coast, and here comes Hugo Chavez on the white horse. What do you think people should do?
Listen, I mean, as a country, we import oil, like 10 to 15% of our oil imports come from Venezuela. So it's not, I think, such a terrible thing that that individuals get heating oil from Hugo Chavez. So I agree, there's things we could be doing as a country that Mike Norman pointed out so wisely. But listen, as far as our overall foreign policy, I'm a big believer in energy independence. It gets scoffed at like we can't do it, but I think we can do it and not be so reliant on some of these monsters like Hugo Chavez, who, by the way, I think is on a downward spiral in his own country. If he doesn't open up his own country to foreign investment, they're going to be producing less and less oil.
Peter, Chavez is already destroying his own company, PDVSA, so why not help him destroy it a little more by just taking some of his profits in oil for poor people?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to tell people who are struggling to pay these oil prices not to take the oil. What bothers me is why these prices are high in the first place, and it's because our own government, the Federal Reserve, is debasing the value of American wages. We can't afford to buy the oil because our currency is being debased. That's why we're having to spend so much money to buy it. We need to stop that. But you know what the government did today, I wouldn't be surprised if oil is over $100 a barrel before the end of the year based on what the Fed did today.
There's a little something called global growth has a role to play into it as well.
It's global inflation.
Hey, Peter, explain something to me. Growth. Peter, from 1985 to 1988, the dollar fell 50%, yet oil prices came down 30%. So where now is this connection between the dollar going down and oil going up?
Remember, it's not just the dollar, right? All governments, all central banks are debasing their money. Everybody is printing too much money. We're exporting our inflation around the world, so everybody is printing money, and so oil has to go up. I mean, it's no coincidence.
Guys, people have to heat their homes. So what are we going to do, become protectionist and not allow any imports of Venezuelan oil?
We don't buy anything from Iran, Liz. We still get oil from around the world. It's a fungible commodity. Cargoes of oil from Iran bound to Europe or Asia ultimately perhaps find their way, or parts of those cargoes find their way back here to imports we bring into the United States. Let's say no to this guy. I mean, Yoran, I have to agree with Yoran on this point. The guy comes in. He lashes out at our president. He ridicules him. We let him come in here. We give him this opportunity of free speech. Then, we stick out our hand. We could help our own people. We're the richest country on the face of the earth.
We're not the richest country on the face of the earth.
Should we take that Rudy Giuliani lead post 9/11 and reject that money that he felt was ridiculous, coming along with that caveat from the gentleman who wanted to give it to, I believe it was Prince Al-Walid, was it not?
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think that in this case we should. I think the United States needs to develop a foreign policy about Venezuela and to have sanctions against the country if we believe they are the enemy, if we believe this guy is really as crazy. But he's self-destructing. I mean, that's the beauty of somebody like that who's not really dangerous to America. He's not going to send terrorists over here to blow up buildings. He's a nuisance, and he's self-destructing. We should let and help him self-destruct. But we need a foreign policy about this. We don't put this on the backs of low-income people buying heating oil.
By the way, Jim, the story that we're downplaying here is the fact that this is a guy who is destroying his own oil company. Right. So if we leave him to his own devices, the Venezuelan oil probably won't exist much longer.
It's really the same problem with Iran. They have not opened their country to a lot of foreign investment. They need that foreign capital investment. And there's really a good chance that, in a few years, Iran will have to be importing oil themselves because they won't be able to pump enough. Same thing with Listen, the best way to deal with these guys ultimately, with these dictatorships, through trade, openness, they'll collapse under all that. And I hope that'll happen. I hope that happens.
All right. By the way, can we take a look at Iran's shot again? I don't know if we can see that, but it's very artistic. Oh, now the light is on. We had a very creative mood lighting there for you, Iran.
We try hard.
Thank you very much. It works. All right. Well.